In a world that rushes forward without pause, sometimes the mind forgets how to be quiet, and the heart forgets that peace is something we can return to. Welcome to SleepyZenStory. Tonight, you're not here to improve anything, fix anything, or chase anything. You're here simply to rest. Maybe take a soft breath and let the noise of the day loosen its grip around you. Maybe imagine yourself standing at the edge of a quiet river at night. The moon hangs peacefully above, its silver reflection stretching across the water like a gentle path. The air is cool, soft, almost like a whisper against your skin. With each slow breath, let your mind arrive here. Let your thoughts settle the way dust settles at the bottom of a jar, naturally, without force. Ahead of you is an old wooden bridge. It stretches over the still water, untouched by time, illuminated softly by moonlight. The wood is smooth, worn only by the passage of travelers who came seeking calm, just like you. You take your first step onto the bridge. The wood doesn't creak, it simply welcomes you. In this place, nothing startles, nothing demands, nothing judges. Everything simply is. As you walk slowly forward, you notice that the river beneath you barely moves. It mirrors the entire night sky perfectly. Every star, every cloud, every pale curve of the moon. And maybe that's the lesson tonight, that stillness doesn't require emptiness. It requires acceptance. The story begins on a quiet night beside a river, the kind of night where the world seems to breathe slower. A single traveler walks down a narrow path lined with old stone walls. A faint wind moves between the trees, carrying with it the sound of insects, and somewhere far away the slow hum of a candle maker closing his shop for the evening. The traveler carries a small, unopened gift, wrapped in worn paper, tied with a thread that's beginning to fray. He doesn't look at it much anymore. He's carried it for so long, it's almost forgotten what's inside, if anything at all. He came here because he'd heard stories of a village by the river where people still sleep with open windows, where the night air smells of jasmine and wood smoke, and no one hurries. He didn't know what he was looking for, only that somewhere along the road, life had begun to feel like noise. Too many voices, too much trying. As he steps closer to the riverbank, the air cools. The moonlight spills across the water, and ripples break it gently, as though the river itself is breathing. He stops, listens, and for the first time in a long while, he feels something close to quiet. You can imagine this traveler, his shoes dusted with the road, his mind still tangled in thoughts of everything he wants to become, everything he wants to fix. Maybe you know that feeling too, when the mind races even as the world around you slows down, when you're so used to carrying everything that even when you try to rest, your thoughts keep marching forward. So, as the traveler finds a spot beside the river, You too can find yours right here in this breath. Inhale slowly through your nose. Hold it softly and exhale through your mouth. Each breath is like the river, moving without effort, carrying everything that doesn't need to stay. The traveler sits down, resting his back against a tree. He unties his boots and lets his feet touch the cool earth. The unopened gift rests beside him. There's a strange comfort in just noticing something without needing to possess it, understand it, or change it. And maybe that's where the story begins. Not in what's inside the gift, but in the moment he finally allows himself to see it, to rest with it, to stop chasing what it might be. And maybe it deepens, and maybe it glows faintly under the moon. The traveler closes his eyes. He listens, and for the first time, he doesn't fill the silence with questions, just breath, and maybe just stillness, and maybe just the quiet company of being here. And maybe as you lie here, listening to this story, let that same peace move through you. Every breath brings you closer to calm. Every exhale releases what you no longer need to carry. And maybe day's thoughts, its noise, its small demands, and maybe drifting away like leaves on the surface of the river. You are safe. You are enough. You are here. He wonders, not for the first time, what's inside. He was told long ago that it was something meant for him, something that would bring peace when the time was right. But years had passed, and still he hadn't opened it. And maybe he laughs softly to himself. It feels foolish now, walking so far with a mystery he never dared to face. The wind brushes through the trees again. A few leaves drift across the ground. And maybe somewhere nearby, a night bird calls once, then falls silent. And in that stillness, something inside him loosens. And maybe small, almost unnoticeable, but it's there. And maybe the softest exhale after a long day. You can feel that same release now if you listen closely. Your body knows how to let go. You just have to stop holding. And maybe next breath, let your shoulders relax completely. Feel your spine grow heavier against the surface behind you. Notice the weight of your arms, the ease in your hands, the quiet inside your chest. There's nothing you need to do, no effort to make. This isn't a story to chase, it's one to drift through. And maybe the traveler looks out across the water. He sees reflections, moonlight, small ripples, a faint glow from the village lamps on the opposite bank. He wonders how long he's been running from himself. How many unopened moments have passed him by. He looks at the gift again. The paper has softened from travel. The string has left small creases across his palm. And maybe open it. Not yet. And maybe first time. And maybe he looks at it. He realizes, and maybe really done that before. The traveler stays by the river through the night. He doesn't know it yet, but the village he came searching for, the peace he hoped to find, is already beginning to unfold inside him. The unopened gift rests quietly by his side. The moonlight wraps the world in silver stillness. And as he closes his eyes, the river hums softly, like a whisper that says, "Peace lies not in possessing, but in appreciating." The traveler woke before dawn. The air was still cool, brushed with the scent of the river. For a long moment he didn't move, only watched the first light crawl across the water. And maybe something gentle about that hour between night and day, the time when the world holds its breath before everything begins again. And maybe he reached for the small gift beside him. The wrapping was damp from the dew. He held it in both hands, weighing it carefully, then tucked it into his satchel. And maybe waited ahead. A few narrow paths led between small houses with tiled roofs, their windows still dark. Smoke rose from one chimney, thin, quiet, almost transparent. And maybe walked slowly, his boots pressing softly into the dirt road. Every sound felt amplified in the silence, the creak of a gate, the flutter of wings, the faraway splash of a fish breaking the river's surface. And May didn't know exactly what he was searching for. He only knew he wanted to understand why peace always felt so distant, why contentment seemed like something other people found easily, while he carried it like a rumor he could never quite believe. The first person he met was a boatman. And maybe the man sat by the dock, repairing an old oar. His hands were rough, his face lined, but his eyes were alive, steady, kind. A single lantern hung beside him, casting a soft amber circle of light on the planks. "Morning," said the traveler quietly. And maybe the man nodded, still working. After a moment, he spoke. "Heading somewhere?" "I'm not sure," the traveler admitted. "I've come far, but I don't know what I'm searching for." And maybe the man smiled, not mockingly, but with the patience of someone who has heard that answer many times before. He gestured to the water. "And maybe the thing about rivers, they don't care where they're going, they just move." And maybe the traveler looked out across the surface, the current slow, deliberate, endless. The boatman continued. "When I was younger, I used to fight the current, wanted to cross faster, wanted calm water, wanted the wind to help. Now I just row steady. Sometimes I drift, and when the river changes, I change with it." And maybe he paused, testing the oar with his thumb. "Peace isn't when the river stops moving. It's when you stop fighting it." And maybe the traveler said nothing for a long time. He only watched the man's calm rhythm, scrape, sand, wipe, repeat. He thanked him and moved on. The boatman only nodded, eyes never leaving his work. And maybe behind him the river kept whispering its quiet truth. And maybe the traveler followed the path up a small slope. The sun was just beginning to climb, turning the mist gold. As he reached the top of the hill, the faint scent of melted wax reached his nose. Down the path, a candlemaker's workshop glowed faintly through its windows. The door was open, and maybe inside, shelves were lined with candles of every shape, tall, thin, short, wide. Some were half-used, others freshly poured. The air was warm with the smell of beeswax and smoke. And maybe the candlemaker was an elderly woman, hands steady and eyes focused on the wick she was trimming. She didn't look up as he entered. And maybe, "Be careful," she said softly. Some of them are still cooling. And maybe he smiled. You work early. I work when it's quiet. The candles don't like noise. They need stillness to set, otherwise the wax breaks. And maybe he watched as she poured a thin stream of golden wax into a mold, steady and unhurried. And maybe, how do you make them so smooth? He asked. She looked at him for the first time, a faint smile behind her wrinkles. You don't rush what's meant to shine slowly. The traveler felt something shift inside him. And maybe he thought about how often he'd tried to hurry things, understanding, success, even peace, always wanting to arrive without learning how to be there. And maybe the candle maker continued. People come here to buy candles for special moments, weddings, births, prayers, but most of them forget to watch the light when they burn. They think the candle's worth is in how long it lasts, but its beauty is only ever in the flame. The traveler nodded slowly. Her words settled somewhere deep in him, quiet, unassuming, true. He thanked her, bought a small candle wrapped in parchment, and placed it in his satchel beside the unopened gift. Then he stepped back into the morning light. And maybe by midday, the path led him into a small square. Children played near the fountain, their laughter echoing against stone walls. He sat nearby, resting his feet, watching them. One little boy approached him, curious, barefoot, holding a wooden toy that was missing a wheel. "What's that?" the boy asked, pointing to the traveler's bag. I smiled. A gift. "And maybe who's it for?" the boy asked. "I don't know," said the traveler. "Maybe me." The boy thought about this for a moment, then grinned. "My mother says every day is a gift. She says even bad days are still wrapped in paper. We just don't open them right." And maybe the traveler laughed softly. "Your mother's wise." The boy shrugged. "She says peace is like water. It's everywhere, but you have to stop splashing long enough to see your reflection." And maybe the unopened one suddenly didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt still. As evening fell, the traveler found a bench overlooking the river. The same river from the night before, but now its surface reflected the orange glow of the setting sun. And maybe he thought about the people he'd met. The boatman who stopped fighting the current, the candle maker who poured light slowly, the child who saw peace in reflections. He realized each one had handed him something invisible, a piece of the puzzle he'd been carrying all along. And maybe he took out the unopened gift and held it gently in his lap. For the first time, he didn't feel anxious about what might be inside. He didn't feel the need to open it to know its worth. The wrapping paper fluttered slightly in the breeze. The thread tugged once, as if asking to be untied. But he didn't move. He just smiled. Because maybe the gift was never meant to be opened, only understood. Maybe it was a reminder that peace isn't something to discover, but something to notice, to sit beside, to let rest quietly next to you like a small wrapped box at the edge of your bed. And maybe the traveler leaned back, eyes half closed, watching the slow fade of sunlight over the river. A candle flickered somewhere in the distance, maybe the one he'd bought from the woman earlier that morning. The flame shimmered, small and steady, before dissolving into the night. And with that, the traveler exhaled. For the first time in his life, it wasn't from exhaustion or regret, but from peace. And maybe whispered softly to himself, and maybe some gifts aren't meant to be opened. They're meant to be lived. The traveler sits by the river as twilight drapes the village in soft shades of blue and gray. And maybe the air has cooled, carrying the faint scent of earth and water. He watches the ripples fade slowly across the surface, reflecting the first stars in the sky. And maybe he doesn't move. He doesn't need to. He simply breathes, letting each inhale draw in the calm of the evening, and each exhale release the day he has carried so long. And maybe you too can breathe like this. Inhale deeply, hold it softly, and exhale slowly. Notice how the weight of your body begins to melt into the surface beneath you. Your shoulders drop, your hands rest, your legs feel heavy and free. Every muscle, every small tension is carried away by the steady rhythm of breath. And maybe the traveler reaches for the unopened gift once more. It rests lightly in his lap. And maybe he doesn't open it. He doesn't need to. Because he has learned what the river, the candle maker, and the child have all whispered to him without words. Peace isn't in possession. Peace is in noticing, in presence, in appreciation. Imagine the gift in your own life, whatever it may be. Perhaps it's a memory, a moment, a small kindness, or simply the breath you are taking right now. You don't need to grasp it. You only need to notice it. You only need to allow it to exist quietly beside you. The river continues its gentle song. The wind brushes across the traveler's face. Every sound, every gentle motion is a reminder. Life is moving, but you can move with it instead of against it. Now, let your mind drift like the water. And maybe imagine yourself sitting beside your own river, and maybe a quiet, safe place, untouched by hurry or expectation. And maybe the day's worries, the things left unfinished, the small anxieties, let them float downstream. And maybe each breath carries one away. And maybe breathe in calm, breathe out tension. Breathe in presence, breathe out restlessness. The traveler closes his eyes. He does not open the gift. He does not need to. The lesson has already unfolded. And maybe the gift was never about what was inside. It was about being here. And maybe about noticing. About simply letting peace exist without interference. And as he rests, the stars appear one by one in the deep sky. A soft wind rustles the leaves, a candle flickers in the distance, and the river hums its eternal lullaby. You, listening, are now part of this quiet moment. Your body is heavy, warm, safe, and maybe your mind is softening, melting into the calm of the night. And maybe feel the slow rise and fall of your chest. Feel your heartbeat, steady and true. Notice the space around your body, the stillness, the silence, the gentle rhythm of life itself. Everything you need is already here. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to open anything. You only need to rest, to breathe, to be. As you sink deeper, and imagine the unopened gift beside you, a quiet presence. It doesn't demand, it doesn't push, it simply exists. And in its simple existence, it teaches a profound truth. Peace is always within reach when you stop trying to hold it. The traveler drifts into sleep beside the river. The water murmurs softly, the candle flickers, the night hums. Everything is exactly as it should be, and so are you. Let your body relax fully. Let your mind drift without effort. There is nothing left to do tonight, nothing left to fix, nothing left to chase. Just breathe, just rest, just be. And maybe some gifts are never meant to be opened. They are meant to be noticed, to sit beside quietly, to remind you that peace is already here. And maybe good night from SleepyZenStory.